Radio, I think that we're alive, and I feel like that. What on earth? And I am sure that some of you are saying, what's he doing? He's a wealth creator. He says not to take any risk to his students, and now it seems that he's taking massive risk. So if you're on, please let me know in the, I think it's in the comment section. You'll see this, looks like a live chat. So maybe tell us who you are, where you are from, and stuff like that. I see there are people on. And then maybe give me a like if that is something that you'd like to do. And yeah, then I did prepare a presentation. I see there's a heart coming up, so it looks like I'm live. I'm using Ecamm. I'm not 100% sure how this program works. I've done this the last time about, I would say, 3 years ago. But I can see that there are people that is getting on now. That is great. So I did like a slideshow type of presentation just to keep myself a little bit focused. Now I see the people are getting in. Hannes, Mario, Werner, thank you, Oki, Neta, right? So I appreciate. Now with that being said, let's start getting into it, and let me see where we are. So first of all, welcome all of you in terms of why I bet my house on BSV. And yeah, so the first thing that I want to start off with is a warning. You know, I'm not a financial advisor. I know actually absolutely nothing about crypto. So please do not try to do what I'm doing and try to follow what I'm following and the way that I do it, because I'm definitely not an expert. And don't look at this as any type of financial advice whatsoever. The one thing that I can tell you that if you want to invest in cryptos, there's a massive, massive risk, especially what's going on in the markets at the moment. There are court cases that can swing things and confuse things. Then also, if you do want to get into the market, I'm saying to my students, do not invest any money that you cannot definitely afford to lose. If you think this is a money-making thing and a quick way of making money because influencers are promising 100, 200, 500, 1,000%, you know, it's all built on greed, and it's not going to work that way unless you really understand, and even then it's going to be very difficult. And then also, never invest more money than what you can afford to lose. Otherwise, yeah, that's basically like a warning. I've got a couple of things that I'm going to discuss. Maybe I see from that slide the order has changed. I'm going to start with a little bit of a background, why I'm doing the stuff that I'm doing. Why did I bet my house on BSV? There's a specific way to do it. There's a structure around it, so make sure that you understand that. And we're going to start with a background story so that you get the feeling of where I am in my life with the cryptos. Then there's a couple of things that I've picked up over the last 2 years relating to BSV. And by the way, BSV is definitely not the only coin that I've got. My students will know I've got the Dreyer crypto strategy. We've got about 60 open positions there at the moment. I'd like to dive a lot into risk because that is important. And then I'm going to start with how to offset risk. So that is more or less what we're going to do. I'm not paying any attention at the moment to, I see there's a lot of what you call it, comments coming in. If you do have questions, I am going to give you time right at the end and say, okay, now's the time for questions, because there is no ways that I'll be able to follow all of this and focus on a type of a presentation. Okay, so, but I appreciate the Jake from Bredasdorp, Gillian, Willem van Aarde, Kanon Eiland, one of my old students. I see a lot of my old students here. So welcome to all of you. Right, so a little bit of background, maybe if you're new and you don't know me, or maybe you're going to listen to this at a later stage. I'm Dreyer, I'm the founder of the Wealth Creators Method, where we help entrepreneurs and investors to create, to grow, and to protect their wealth, in short. So how do we do that? We follow the wealth creator strategy. So the wealth creator strategy is simply the intelligent use of limited resources to go from where you are to where you want to be in the shortest possible time with the least amount of risk. So the main thing is the risk, but there's a step-by-step process. If you start a business, or if you invest in cryptos, or if you invest in property, there are different levels, and you need to follow those steps in a very specific sequence. Otherwise, we're going to run into, or we can run into problem. And most of the time, people try to skip levels, and that is where all the problem comes in. So success, as 𝐓𝐡𝐞 Nightingale defines it, is the progressive realization of a worthy goal. And the way to do that progressive realization, is to get the right information or skills in the right order for the level of the game that you're at. And then you have to do it. So this is how we apply the wealth creator strategy. And this is what I'm going to focus on specifically tonight. So it may sound like I'm taking a huge risk. I think at the end of the presentation, you're going to find that I'm taking virtually no risk. And if I'm taking risk, I know how to offset it, because I know how to create, to grow, and to protect wealth, right? Or money. Now, for those of you that do not know me, I started my career as a financial planner. I studied to become a financial planner, and in 1987 my life changed completely, because at that point in time I was doing what the industry told me to do, but I could see that I'm not going to get ahead in my life by doing this that I've learned and get qualifications to do. So at that time, I developed the Property Pro investment system, and there everything changes, because I discovered that this story, that the higher the risk, the higher the growth, is their story, and that the way that I understand money and finances is from an indoctrination point of view, where they told me how to think, like your educational system, school system. And by following that, I would have to work basically till I'm 60, 65, even longer than that. But during that stage, in 1987, I discovered there's a way to offset risk, because risk is when you do not understand what you do. This is according to Warren Buffett, and I agree 100% with that. Because property, for example, has got 27 variables. The moment that you know how to identify those variables, now I can, because I know that, I can set or learn a set of skills around that risk to mitigate or to eliminate that risk completely. And simply by doing that, it means that the growth is going to go up, because the risk is going to come down. And that, to me, once I understood that, my life changed completely. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because a little bit later on, we're going to start diving into cryptos. Well, tonight is about the cryptos. And exactly the same thing happened with me when I started in the crypto, let's call it a field. So we should be very careful for the lies that industries try to imprint on us. And then because of that, we do certain things that is working for them, but not working for us. Oh, that's the way that I see it, and I may be totally wrong. And if I'm wrong, sorry for that. But we have to take responsibility for our own life. So because of the way that I've done it, since 87, 7 years later, we were financially free, and we retired. And about 5-6 years later, Tanya, my wife, said to me, "You can't sit at home doing nothing, go and teach." I never thought that I'm definitely not a born teacher, but because I started teaching and my students started getting results, this is my passion today. And as soon as I figure out something, I try to bring it to my students as quickly as possible. So let me bring and tell you my crypto story. I've got a story for property and for businesses and stuff like that. In 2013, we were at Shumba's game farm, a campus type of thing, and my partner came to me and he said to me, we should in the company buy computers to mine Bitcoin. I've never heard about Bitcoin, or maybe I've heard it, but it did not register. So I said to him, okay, how does this work? Mine Bitcoin, I could not get my mind around it. He talked about the blockchain and how this thing is going to explode and change the world. Now, I didn't get it. And I asked him a simple question. I said, okay, what's the IRR on these things? No, you can't calculate the IRR, in other words, the growth, the way that you normally do, like a business or a property. I said to him, it's bullshit. This is a Ponzi scheme. I'm not interested. You can carry on, but not in the company. Which, by the way, he did. He bought himself a machine and he started mining, and he made a couple of rand. But towards the end of about 2016, now that my antennas are up, I start picking up blockchain, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and stuff like that. And at one point, I decided I better look into this. And that's where my journey really started. That was about towards the end of 2016. At that point in time, there were about 600 coins on a coin market cap, and I started looking at it. But the funny thing about this is, every time that I looked, literally every day, there were new coins. And I could not get my mind around it, because some of these coins I did not really knew about pump and dump schemes at that point in time. We're making like 50%, 100%, 2,000%, 100,000% growth, literally in a very, very short time. So I started getting confused, but at the same time, I started putting more and more time in order to be able to understand it. And then at a certain point, I thought, okay, there's a strategy that I can build around this, because I do not know, by reading all these white papers and stuff, everyone talks about something, but we do not know if it's going to become a reality and if it's just a pie in the sky. It looks on paper as if it's incredible and it can change the world, because that's part of the marketing strategy. So I started saying, if I can only find the top 1%. So that was an incredible job for me to start going through all these coins and do evaluation. Luckily, because I've got a little bit of financial background, and because I've been in business and I understand how business operates and how to do evaluations and valuations on property, I started getting a plan, and I developed what we call the Dreyer crypto strategy or system. So it's a system, and I knew that I could not work on any analyticals, in other words, on these charts, because it does not apply to this, especially at that stage, because it's so new. I decided I need to find something else, and I developed the Dreyer psychological indicator for myself, okay? And I started following that. So at that point in time, based on the ruler's principle, some of you may know the ruler's principle. There are videos on YouTube about the ruler's principle. And the ruler's principle basically stands for radar. It's the acronym. The R stands for radar. Something comes on your radar and now you start investigating it. You need to understand what you do before you pull the plug and invest. You need to love what that technology can do. The baseline blockchain at that stage, I've already figured out that I love what it's going to do and how it's going to change the world. Then you have to create or wait for an event, that is the E in the rulers, which to me, I use an asymmetrical uniform investment strategy. I'm going to tell you quickly about that just to give you an idea, because I see tonight as part of training, there's absolutely nothing that I'm going to sell. I just want you to understand how the crypto market works and also what you can do in order to start mitigating your risk. Now, the next R then stands for risk reversal or risk. We need to understand risk. Now, this is actually far bigger than just a risk reversal, because risk reversal works on the basis you buy something, it goes up, say, for example, 200%, you take your money out, and now you play with money that is not your money. In other words, there's no money on the table. But you can also very effectively do this by applying the wealth creator strategy or by financial structures. So there are different ways that we can do this. And I'm going to touch on that as well tonight. So in fact, that is one of the things that I'm going to focus on this. And then we need to understand the story, and I've built a system around it. As I say, it's not an analytical system that tells me the moving averages. I've tried this when I was a financial planner, like 30 years ago, only to figure out in the stock market that is bullshit. No one can predict the future. But we can predict the state of mind that a group of people or a nation or a group of people are in. And that state of mind is going to determine what and how we react. So that is what I started focusing on, because I've got a little bit of, let's call it psychological and background, and I understand that the human nature, how we operate in general, right? So let me give you then the idea, and I'm not saying that you should do it, but this is why and how the Dreyer crypto strategy, that portfolio, operates. I'm going to give you like a 2-3 minute version of this. Say, for example, because I do not know which coins are going to run and how much they're going to run. If I select the coin by following the ruler's principle and it looks like this thing can change the world, I'm not sure if it's going to, but it looks like. Now I have to sift, and I knew that the chances are about 90%, 99% that some of these ideas are not going to fly. It's not going to make money, and it's not going to work. On paper, it looks great because it's a marketing strategy. But in real life, the moment that the popo hits the fan, it's going to be brown, right? So I said, okay, if I've got, let's say, $50,000, if I buy Bitcoin, BTC core, Bitcoin, BTC, for $1,000, then it means I'm going to invest each and every coin that I'm going to select in my portfolio. Will the initial investment be $1,000? So I put no weight to it like other people would do and say a portion of that 25 or 50% is BTC, 25% Ethereum, and the rest. No, I said we don't know because there are going to be outshooters. So everything exactly the same. Now, please, I don't think there's a lot of people that tries and follow this specific strategy. This is the way that I'm doing it. Because of the experience that I had and that I started building up at that point towards the beginning of 2017, I could see that you cannot follow a normal way to do evaluate what the price should be on that. So I've used something that I've done in businesses, which basically is there's a lot of experience. So you can very quickly see what are the odds that a business is going to survive. I call it the project evaluation process. And by simply doing that before that business starts, I can evaluate the probability of that succeeding. And that I put a weight to, and I attach that to a price, and then I would set my price. Now, asymmetrical means that you set your price where you feel comfortable the moment that you invest in that coin and that coin does not perform, that you can lose all of that money immediately, and you're not going to start worrying, because that is when the emotions are going to come in, and that is when people make silly mistakes. And I've seen it over the last 40 years. And myself, in the beginning, followed that strategy based on emotion, and I've made some serious mistakes. Now, check here. So I could see that, say, 90% of those coins went to zero. If one of those coins could give me a 50,000% growth, a 5,000% growth, and I've invested $1,000 in it, it means I've got all my money back. That means I've got 49 free coins. So that is where in the ruler's principle, I said, the moment that happens, that's what I'm going to do. Now, the first coin that I had that has done that was BNB, Binance. And it grew by more than 6,000%. It grew actually more than that, but at 6,000%, I got out of the market and I had my money back. Okay, so basically that is more or less Now, the psychological indicator works on, where are we? It works on lines, so to speak. So the ruler's principle, I've explained that. I'm not going to do that again. And when that fear and greed indicator shows me it's time to get out of the market, that then is, of course, when I'm going to get out of the market. Now, let me then quickly take you through that process, because in March in 2018, so not long after I started, that happens. At that point in time, there were about 1,500 coins in total. I had 24 of those coins, and the profits that I've made was, I could not believe that, but it was luck. It was luck. I'm saying it's my strategy, and maybe it is my strategy, but to me, it was 100% luck. Because of that, I started following these lines, and then the market crashed like whoops out of, like it's in a free fall, but my money was off the table. And it started picking up, and I explained this to Tanya, my wife, at a certain point, and she said to me, she thinks there's a lot of value in this. Why don't you show this to your students? And that is exactly what I've done, and my first presentation then was on the 1st of September to my students. Now, luckily for me, again, I think it's only luck. I'm not sure what else to call it, unless my indicators are spot on. On the 7th of December, as you can see here, it dropped like crazy. We got out of the market around there. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor. And then it started picking up. There was the first time I went to my students. And there, on that day, I made a little video. It's still on YouTube. And of course, I informed my students that it's time to get back into the market, select the right coins according to the ruler's principle. And that was on the 7th of December 2018. Okay, so that was the stage that we got into it. Then we waited, because you don't see the rest of this graph. We waited till 21. In 21, those graph lines crossed 2 times. We got rid of, at that point in time, only 20% of the portfolio. And there were a couple of coins that I could see at that stage and from a tax purposes, I've got rid of that. Of course, I operate with WhatsApps and with emails telling my students what I'm doing. They take full responsibility. I've got incredible students. They understand how it works, and they make their own decisions. So it's not based on, but I give them an indication of what I'm doing, because that's the deal. I tell them this is what I'm doing. So at that point in time, again, it was a chance for people that missed the first time to get the money off the table. And I hope that my students followed me at that point in time, because not only were your money off with 20% of sales, but also you had a nice, let's call it nest egg at that point in time. Right. So now, what does it mean? I think it's important that we understand that if we can do a risk reversal like we've done, it means that all the coins that you've got, all the coins, are for free. It's literally, if you've invested $50,000, you take $50,000 out and you've got 49 coins. Whatever happens with the market, you do not have to worry. You do not have to panic. And that's why initially I decided this is what I'd like to do, simply because I could see this enormous volatility. Now, this is not for everyone. I'm sharing with you my story. Right. This was in 2021. But in 2021, something weird happens. And that immediately started as a risk for me. Remember, my job on my own portfolios is risk management. I need to understand what I let myself in. Now, at this point, let me tell you what happened. When I started looking at this, I did what everyone else, I think, was doing. We went to Google and we went to YouTube. And then BTC, this is the ticker symbol for what we call Bitcoin. You'd follow that, and then there's a lot of serious influencers. In other words, guys that give advice and that knows every single thing that you can think of about it. But then they would start mentioning other coins as well. So the trick here that I want you to relate back to 1987, what happened to me. In 87, I realized this that I'm learning is based on lies. It's not the truth. But I was so deep into this rabbit hole that to me, this was my world. And I made serious money, so I felt good. But a weird thing happened because, and I knew about this, but it was not on my radar simply because all these influencers cracked this down like crazy. But there was a court case, let me see where we are. Okay, of Craig Wright versus, or Kleiman versus Craig Wright. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this just to show you how it happens. I saw that Craig Wright, they broke away, or that's the story that they are telling us, that it was Bitcoin and there's a hard fork and then BCH, Bitcoin Cash, and then a while later BSV broke away from and I believe that, from a BCH, from a Bitcoin Cash. I believe that until I saw something relating to this court case. Now, it's about a 1.1 million original, let's call it, Bitcoins that were mined. And those, everyone in the game will tell you it belongs to Satoshi. It has never moved, and this is his. But Dave Kleiman died, and his brother Ira had inherited the estate. But there were communications. Actually, Craig Wright wanted to sympathize with Ira and the family, and he mentioned something, and then they saw this, that maybe this Dave has got 50%, he's 50% Satoshi, so to speak. Right, and therefore 50% of that belongs to him. A huge court case. So I thought by myself, and I saw something that triggered me, because one of the things that they did not argue against, that you have to submit certain stuff before you start, and then you can argue on that. But one of the things was that Craig Wright said that he had started Bitcoin.org, and he's got proof that that website initially belonged to him because he paid by a credit card. And that was in 2008. Now, there is no ways, according to me, that someone can say that it is accepted in a court that it's true before you start the process. And all of this, my radar, remember the ruler's principle radar? It comes on. And I thought, flip, I better find out very, very quickly, because at that point in time, because of the growth that I had and the amount of money, there was a couple of rands that I had in the crypto market. And this proposed a huge risk towards that I am perceiving, because what I perceived was exactly the opposite to what these guys were talking about, and what was original. And the more now I start reading the white paper, the Bitcoin white paper, but from a total different point of view, from a total, and I could see that these guys are reinstating the original protocol, and the others literally have hijacked that. Now, I don't know if it's true or not. As I've said to you right in the beginning, I'm not an expert. So, but if it's true, it means that I have to find a way, because this is a way that I operate. I love to learn, and I love to figure things out. So that is exactly what I've done, especially when Craig Wright basically won that case. So as soon as that happened, I thought, okay, now it's not about if he's Satoshi or not. That was about the coins. But the simple fact, plus the world then there were 7 charges. He lost one of them, of which he and his wife has got a 75% shareholding in that, and then Kleiman, Dave, had a 25%. And the court ordered that he had to pay money over to that company for certain functions that apparently he hasn't done. So, but the rest, of course, he won. Now, it was a big thing. And when that happened, I saw that the way that the news media presented this was 100%, as if he has won that case. Now, you'll find that in this community, and that's why I'm not saying he's Satoshi, I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying he's right, I'm not saying he's wrong. But in the community, you get fanatic people. You get people that will die for a cause in order to say something. I cannot rely on what other people say, because then I'm not taking responsibility. So my responsibility was, first of all, towards myself, and secondly, towards my students at that point in time. Now, let me tell you why. Because I had students that were following this Dreyer crypto strategy, right? Because I'm sharing this stuff. So I thought, okay, I better structure what we call an insurance, right? Like a warrant or something like that. And that is what I've done. Okay. So I sat down and I said, okay, how can I mitigate the risk so that if this is true, then nothing is going to happen and I'm okay. But if it's not true, then I'm also okay. Now, on that side, I'm okay because I feel happy with the coins that I've got, the way that I deal with this. I'm not a trader or a speculator, something like that. I'm simply waiting for the market to come to me. I've made a ton of money. All my money were free, and hopefully my students also free because we did the risk reversal and stuff like that. So at that point, there was also, I picked up something on Coinbase, and Coinbase said in their prospectus that one of the biggest risks was that if Satoshi would come onto the scene, because then it could cause a lot of havoc. But at that point, Craig Wright already started giving these guys grief. So they were supposed to say that, but they did not, as far as I'm concerned, or no, they did not take that and say, okay, but there's a court case where this is a possibility and this can be the outcome. Okay, so again, this is from my understanding, the way that I understand it. Right, so that is just something that I saw on Amazon to show that. Now, that means that at that point, I decided to restructure and to tell my students how I'm going to offset my risk. I went to them and I explained. Now, let me share with you how simple it is. Say, for example, you've got 50 coins, 1,000 each and every one of the coins. You know 90 to 95% of those are not going to make it. One is going to give you 6,000 plus. You take the money off. But now we're sitting here with a problem, because if this is true and they can do what they say they're going to do or they could do at that point in time, if this is true, it means that you can do everything that the second layers and the side chains and all of that you can do on the original protocol. In other words, on blockchain, the original blockchain, which is Satoshi Vision. And now, that means you can do it at a fraction of a cent. A fraction of a cent. Okay. So on top of that, what you can also do is, at that point when I started to have a look, they were putting through like 50,000 units or transactions per second. To give you indication, what's the company? Visa put through about 50,000 at peak time in the financial field. But remember, it's Bitcoin. It's programmable money. In other words, all the contracts that's supposed to run on the Ethereum and ERC20 tokens, all of that could be done directly there. And I said, okay, I need to find a way. So if you've got 50 coins and you've got 10,000, let's say, dollars in cash, so that if the right coins come up, you can do it. What about if you take a small risk and you say, okay, I'm going to take 5,000. In other words, now the weight is not 1/50th, it's going to be a little bit more, because you want to offset the possibility that if something like that happens, that you can at least, over a period of time, get your money back. Okay, so if it doesn't happen, you are going to miss $5,000 out of this whole thing. If it happens and it's true, then that chain, as far as I'm concerned, and I may be totally wrong, the money start going to gravitate over a period of time towards this coin, which means I think that to get a 2000% growth on your money, if that is true, is not going to be a too great of an ask. Okay, so the chances are that whatever happens, I'm going to be covered. And that's what I said to my students. This is the way that I'm going to do it. They follow their own advice, but that was on the 24th of February 2022. Okay, so that's the way that currently the Dreyer crypto strategy, I'm dealing with it. But then something else happened, and that is that COPA, the Crypto Open Patency Alliance, they sued Dr. Craig Wright. Okay. Now, again, this is a weird character, and I understand, for example, he's got 4,000 patents, and of course, everyone's got their own narrative and story, of which more than 1,000 are granted, but in a total separate company called 𝐂𝐡𝐞. He's not even the director in 𝐂𝐡𝐞. He was this chief scientist at a certain period of process, but he's I can almost say, the mastermind to reinstate the original protocol the way that he says and there's no proof at the moment. There's a court case going on, but that the end result is not, I think next week, Tuesday, they're going to start with the closing arguments. So these guys are suing him as being a fraud. And this is the narrative that runs around in the world, right? Now, here's something that to me, remember, I want to be objective. I don't want to be caught in all this frickin' emotional garbage. If someone says that someone else is a fraud, then there has to be a court that showed, a court case that proved that the court, the justice, the legal system has established that this guy is a fraud. Until such thing happen, you can't say, I'm a fraud. I can take you to the bloody court, right? Because this is infringement of certain rights, especially if I'm not. Now, this guy is paying for his own court cases, and he had several, and I followed all of them, and it makes sense that someone will not do something like this. Now, what the main Macca are going to tell you, the narrative in this field, and this was originally why I came into this was not your coin, not your keys, not your coin. And Craig Wright said that's bullshit. It's if someone steals your coins, they should go to jail. In other words, you cannot, because there are hackers and there are incredible, brilliant oaks that can hack basically anything. So that is not, it's the identity. So people try to force him to sign the keys, or however they do that. And he first did it in private sessions. But then he realized, but this is not going to happen. And he said this, a key is not identity. Now, everyone said, just sign and prove to us that you are Satoshi. And he said, unless there's a court that proves my identity, I'm not going to move those coins. Okay. So, okay. Now, let's move forward. Now, this court case is where COPA started, instead of taking him to a criminal court, they take them to this court where they want to, but I think they want to get to his patents. And how they're going to do that, I'm not sure, but these guys have got tons of money behind them. So I'm sure that just like the normal financial system, they'll be able to get their way eventually if that is what they want. Okay, so because of that, another thing that I want to bring to you, BlackRock, in there with these ETFs that they launched, and they are making a lot of money. When I read that, it says there's Craig Wright, they mentioned this court case, but what they also say, and it was weird to me that they said that they can decide which Bitcoin they will regard as the right Bitcoin. In other words, it can be BTC Core or it can be BCH, Bitcoin Cash. They do not mention, by the way, and this is typically what will always happen in cases like that. They will not say a BSV, but they say that they can decide which is the let's call it original Bitcoin. And now I've got my own theory around that, and that is that they're going to pump the living daylights out of this to get the masses, and then they're going to swing it, because to them it's about money. So they get the money when they sell, they get the money when they exchange it to BSV, and then they pump it there. So, but there's no proof of what I'm saying at the moment. But to me, in the back of my mind, in order to cover my risk, that was part of what I'm doing and what I'm looking at. So again, I'm not an expert. So why do I think that Bitcoin BSV is better than others? Before we carry on, please understand, I've got the Dreyer crypto strategy. I've got BTC, and I've got more BTCs, Bitcoin Core, than perhaps 95% of the people in the world, right? More than that. I think I've got more than 90% of the people that have got BTC. I've got more than that. So I'm not here to say, if that works out the way that I planned initially, everything carries on. I've got no problem, right? If it does not, everyone's got a problem. And this is why I'm doing this. So I'm not saying that you should believe a word that I'm saying. I'm just bringing a risk to you so that you, if you're in that arena, have a look at it and say, how can I mitigate the risk if this is the truth? Why on earth will a person pay millions in attorney fees and if it's not his name? Because the only thing that you've got is your name. And these guys have squandered his name all over the show. But yet he keep on going because he believes unconditionally, or that's the impression that I'm getting. Now, I may be wrong, but that made sense to me. Right, so why do I think, from what I've seen, and I'm not an expert on this, and I'm not going to get into the technical stuff, that BSV is perhaps a better chain than the rest? Simply because it's bigger blocks. Now, of course, everyone's going to have their own little opinion, but do you know that the BTC at the moment is running, about 7 transactions per second? That's it. These guys are running at the moment with the Terra node on the testnet. The last time that I looked, 1.75 million transactions. When Craig Wright said that a couple of years ago, that he's going to push it up to 100,000, I saw the first time that they started testing that on a testnet in front of a group where they pushed 100,000 transactions in a demonstration. You know, that was incredible. Now it's normal. It's a normal occurrence if you look at the blockchains and the way that they run. When he said to 1 million with the Terra node, everyone says he's crazy, and he said by the end of 23 they're going to do that, right? And they are busy doing that. Now, he said that before 2030 they want to run 1 billion. And at the moment, because they reinstate the original, it's unbounded. There's no limit. It's a computing power that you bring to this, and then, of course, the ways to store it. That's the hampering. But the moment that you've got the hardware, the moment that you can run that, at the moment, or that's, again, how I understand it. So that means those transactions that are busy testing is at a fraction of a cent. Literally, it's a fraction of a cent. Right. This means that there's something else. There's what we call a script, where one of the guys worked out a script that they used in Ordis as well. You can, if you've built a business on Ethereum, you're a developer and you use the Ethereum network to build that with basically very little effort and 1 or 2 lines of script. You can bring that whole thing over and it runs on BSV. Right? And I've seen proof that it happened, and I've heard and listened to people that has actually done that. So once the people start waking up that you can run a business at a fraction of a cent instead of $2 or $20 or $100 gas fees and stuff like that. I think the adoption, at the moment, the world doesn't know about it, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later. And they do everything in their power so that the world doesn't, and they're going to do everything in their power to shut me down. Like they're trying to shut every down, and they infiltrate and start spreading these, let's call it whatever you want to call it. Now, I'm not against that. I'm not against that. If that is the way that people want to operate, then that's fine. I call it negative energy. Instead of, I'm open to learn. So as long as I can learn, but I have to learn this side as well as that side, because if it's a risk, there's money, my money is on the table. So bigger blocks, keep things the same. In other words, if I want to do a development or something, I've got a problem at the moment with one where I started data that now they've upgraded it. Now they force me to do the upgrade. You can't do business like that. He said that protocol basically is set in stone and it can't change, so that in 100 years from now on, my great-grandchildren can have the benefits of what we're doing. So it's helped the developers and the businesses because you can trust that the system is there and that it's operating. It's good for big companies, and I see that's what they're focusing on at the moment. They started ignoring completely the individuals simply because it's very easy to influence an individual. It's a total different story when you go to IBM and they are paying tons of money for servers, and suddenly they can do it a fraction of a cent for exactly the same and faster and more secure because proof of work. So all of that said to me and saying to me at the moment that I should at least look from a risk point of view at this. Very small payments and a very secure storing of data. To me, that I think is important. They're following the rules. Initially, believe it or not, when I came onto this, they said, okay, in South Africa in 2016-17, there were no regulation, no rules about it. And everyone would tell you, listen, you can hide this and you can make all these profits and you don't have to declare it. But I had, because I'm a business owner, I know how SARS operates, and I was a financial planner like 25, 30 years ago. And the last thing that you want to do in your life is to start having a rally with those guys. Because all this bullshit that they can't trace you, if they want to trace you, they're going to track you. If you are registered, which I believe 95% to 99% of people listening to me here tonight, they are going to go to exchange. When I opened my accounts on the exchanges, I had to declare who I am. I had to send proof, know your client. They know everything. They don't believe a word that this is it must be hard to see who it is. But if someone stole your money, it must be tracked, and the miners must write that money back. And that is what he wanted right from the word go. And this is why they changed the protocol. In other words, if you really think about it, they hijacked that, but because the miners and the developers were influenced, they literally grabbed the name BTC as their name. But if you look at the line, you're going to find that, and then BCH, Bitcoin Cash. But our transaction starts with the 1. The rest have got different where it starts. Right, so they're following the rules, and that means that once, and I hope that at least they can sort that out, it's under the law. You can't have lawlessness. The moment that you do that, you open it for criminals. And the criminals are going to abuse any system where they can't be tracked, which already came out and which already happened, and even on a big scale. So I like that. I like, from the word go, I've played 100% open cards with SARS. I declared every bloody cent that I've made. I don't want to not obey the laws, right? Because the law is supposed there to protect you. So I think in simple terms, the way that I understand it, and I may be totally wrong, it's super fast, it's reliable, it's rule abiding. It can handle a lot of transaction data, make it usable for both small and payments and big business applications, even governments. And because of that, I'm thinking that from a risk point of view, someone at least have a look, if you into this, to a small portion of your portfolio. Miskien, maybe just have a look at that. Now, why on earth will I bet my house on BSV? Please, let's. I'm in property, and I'm serious in property. And I've been in property since 1982. So, and I've got different property portfolios. My problem with my property at this stage, with all my portfolios, is those portfolios are basically paid, which means that the growth that I can get on it, I'm getting the income, right? I'm living off the income, that's my pension. And I've been doing this since, what was it, about 1995, right? 96. This is my income. Now, in other words, in some of those portfolios, I don't even need the income. I've got more than enough income. So if that is the case, then you can't use structures in order to get this unless you are prepared to take risk and take out more and more bonds in order to keep on growing like most people do. So in my case, if I've got a portfolio to the value, I've got 20 properties as an example. Hypothetically, I'm not going to give you my exact figures. And each property is about $1 million. It means there's 20 million. But that 20 million is not going to grow at an IRR of even 15%. In other words, in 5 years' time, it's not going to double. Now, everyone tells you about risk. The risk is actually not today. If you can afford something, there's no risk because you've got the money. The risk comes in 5 years' time, in 10 years because of inflation. So if you can't double your money at least in 5 years' time, then you're not moving ahead as far as I'm concerned. Right, now I'm teaching what's your IGR and what is your FFGR, and my students will know what I'm talking about. So I've got a risk that most people will not see as a risk, but I've got a massive risk in some of my portfolios at this point in time, simply because of the growth that I'm getting. I can't get the growth that I really want in there. But what if there's a way to do a combination whereby there's very little risk or risk that I can handle, that I'm prepared, and there are different ways to mitigate that risk. My students will know, and I'm going to share some of them even here tonight, and then we take it from there. So why am I prepared to bet my house or a house on that? If I've already mentioned this. So 5% of 20 million is $1 million. So if I sell one property or I bond one property, what's the outcome going to be? If I take 20 million at 12% IRR, this is not necessarily because there's income and growth, but over a period of 5 years, it will be 35 million. Right. If I'm taking $1 million at 12%, it means that the one will give me 1.7. So if I'm taking the million out today, it means I'm going to have 33 million at the end of the day. Right? But my risk, I've started, Warren Buffett says risk is when you do not know what you're doing, but then he also says risk is to lose capital. His rule 1 is never lose capital. His second rule is never skip rule 1. Always remember, go to rule 1. So, and this is what I'm busy doing in my property portfolio, in one of my portfolios. Okay, so my insurance cost, therefore, so if I'm taking 20 million at 33 million at the end of the day, it means that it's a 10.9% growth on my 20 million that I'm going to get. If I lose all the million, the full million, I'm losing that. In other words, this is the biggest bullshit. I should never have done it. Craig Wright is not Satoshi, he's a fraudster. He go to jail for 215 years. N-chain folds, that coin goes to zero. Right, $1 million murtu, gone. But on my initial 20 million before I took that out, I'm still getting a 10.9%. Now, can I share this stuff with you? Because I don't think anyone else will be sharing. Maybe give me a heart. I'm not watching the comments whatsoever at this point in time. When we get to the Q&A, I'll start getting that. So if it makes sense, otherwise we may just as well stop. You know, if people do not want to. Okay, right. Apparently no one wants to do anything, and I'm not sure if I'm still online, but I'm going to continue. So for 1.1% IRR, I'm prepared to do, okay, there the hearts I'll start capping in. Maybe there's a little bit of a delay. Right. So again, back to the ruler's principle. I apply the ruler's principle to my property, and then I apply it to BSV. I had a video that is running at the moment in terms of how to apply the ruler's principle and how I've selected. You can go and have a look. I'm going to have a look at now the likes and the hearts are coming in. I really appreciate that. It looks like there's a serious delay between me and when you hear me. So thank you for that. Okay, now I'm quickly going to tell you, this was earlier today. I'm not sure if it's still like that. The total market cap, 2.51 million. The Bitcoin price earlier today, 66,728. BSV, 105.03. And as you can see, it goes up and down like crazy. So now let's start from a risk point of view. This is what I'm sharing with you at the moment. If the market capitalization is 2.5 trillion, BTC is 1.3 trillion at $66,000. It simply means it's captured 52% of the total market. Let's look at BSV. It's 2 billion, not trillion, billion. Right. So on the total market, it's 0.08%. But if I look at BTC, it's 0.157%. In other words, it's less than 1% of the total market value in terms of the total thing that it can dominate. This is totally speculation. 0.082%. So I hope that you see it's actually a 1.5% in terms of, no, it's a fraction of 1% that we are talking. So at that point in time, I got my BSVs on the transaction that I'm talking about at the moment for between 800 to 900 BSVs for one BTC comparison to the price. And then let's start adding to this so that you'll quickly see. I've already done this. So if I risk 5% of my property portfolio in this, it's $1 million that we're going to do. If we look at the property, if that property is giving me a cap rate of 6%, it gives me an income, therefore, of 1.2 million before tax, which is 100,000 per month. If one of them goes bang and I lose that money, I'm going to lose, in other words, 5,095. I don't need that money. So in my case, it becomes totally damn irrelevant. I can survive on 95,000 surplus or 100 surplus to me. Now, please take into consideration, I'm sharing my situation with you. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not saying what you should do. It is not, I cannot say and tell anyone what to do. You have to take a responsibility. This is what I'm teaching my students. It's because we do not take responsibility that we are swayed and confoculated by other people. That is where the problem comes in, because these people are going to be emotional, and 99.9% there's a reason they follow the money. If this advice that I'm sharing with you, I'm making no money out of this. None. But I feel that I need to tell what I believe to be the truth, and from a risk point of view, because I'm in this game, first of all, as a financial planner, where I focus on risk, and we understood that the way that other people present risk to us is not risk. Risk is if you do not take the responsibility to understand what it is that you're doing. And if there's a risk and you ignore that risk, I think you are stupid. I'm stupid if I know yes a risk and I ignore that risk. I'm crazy, right? Just because my ego tells me, flippin', I must be right, doesn't mean I'm right, because this is what I've seen my whole life in religion, with the politics, with the educational system, with the financial system, with the medical system. These systems are there to confocculate you. Confocculate is a mental state of mind when you do not know that you don't know what you're supposed to know. And that is what keeps people poor. So I want to tell you, and I hope that you can see it, irrespective of what happens, I'm covered, right? Now I'm looking at my property, one of the property portfolios, and this is what I'm sharing with you as part of the training session. So I've already showed this is 1.1% risk in terms of IRR. If I want to then say for example, I take this app, it's 5,000 that I'm going to lose. If we bring that over the 60 months, it's 300,000. If I see what growth I must get to make up the 300,000 plus the 1.7 on my property that I'm going to lose, I need to get to 2 million. Now I calculate back and I say, okay, what's the return on investment? 587. Now, if it's not true, I'm going to lose that money, and it's okay. If it's true, I think that 500% is nothing over a 5 or a 10 or a 20-year period. It's nothing compared to what these cryptos are doing. Right. So when we look at it from this point of view, the risk to double my portfolio by taking R1 million risk means that if I can get 3,527% growth on that coin, BSV, I'm going to have 35 million. Plus, remember, my portfolio is 33 million, right? After we deduct the 1 million. But in that 35, the million should come on because it's just the profit. It's not the return on investment, because return on investment is the end result minus the investment, divide by the investment, gives you that. This, my friend, is the way that I'm doing it. And again, right or wrong, I'm prepared to take the responsibility for that. But here's something that I just wanted to throw in. What's the potential? So the potential, we've already calculated that Bitcoin has got 52% of the market in terms of the total market as it stands. Now, I did not talk about IPv6, and I did not talk about the Internet of Things and what can happen and what the intent of these guys are, because it's to move data. It's not to move money. It's got actually nothing to do with money. Money is the byproduct to get the transaction at a fraction of a cent. It's data. It's the movement of data. And we are moving, and Craig right in the word go, he already anticipate IPv6 technology to come in, which now starts to gel, and that's why you can do, and they can do the kind of things that they are busy doing. So in terms of the market cap, total market cap 0.08, and in terms of BTC 0.15%. Right. Now, what happens if BSV flip BTC? Then it means that's the price, right? So that coin basically goes down to the price that BSV has got. And I know that there's a couple of people maybe listening now that's going to be rattled and say, never. Well, maybe there's a 0.082% chance that it can happen. That means your million becomes, you divide it by that 1.57, becomes 635 million rands, right? If it flips the market, because none of those coins are necessary based on the technology that is there, is $1.2 billion. So that is what we call an asymmetrical structure. Asymmetrical structures, you know your downside. The downside you can handle. In other words, the moment that you make the investment, that investment is gone. There are different ways that we can structure this. I haven't done that. Next week or the week after that, my Inner Circle Legacy Mastermind, if they ask me the question, I will show them how you can get all of this 100% risk-free, on condition that you've got the skills, well, that they've got, or you've got the wealth creator skill. There are ways that you can do this with property without taking any knock. Now, if you listen to normal people, they're going to tell you, you're crazy, it can't be done. My students will know exactly what I'm talking about, because that's what we specialize in, is to get things for free and to not take risk. So what I'm trying to tell you today is, whatever you do, gain the skills. There are 4 high value skills. It all starts with the mindset. If you do not believe, or you've got a fixed mindset where you are not prepared to change, nothing is going to happen and you're going to get stuck. If this thing that's got a 0.15% chance to maybe do it comes to light, your money is in danger, right? You've got a problem. There's a halving coming up. It can be disastrous for the miners if things do not work out. Personally, I actually hope, for the sake of the world, where the world are at this point in time, that it does not happen. Truthful, because the amount of money that people are going to lose will be astronomical, and the Black Rocks and the Vanguards and these guys are going to laugh all the way, because they've played us like a fiddle, and we are not prepared to see that, or even give it a think, think about it, because it's and people do weird things. Now, I'm not saying that you are doing weird things, but in general. So that's my little story. I hope it's just over the hour. I really hope that that there's a little bit of value, and if there's value, maybe come back to me. And I see there BSV maximum BTC is a scam. I don't know who's BSV maximum. Be careful. This is not what I want for today. I'm not here to say who's scammers and who's frauds and who is. What I've tried to do was, from a logical point of view, because I've got money in the market, I started where most people start, with BTC, and by understanding the process, this is what I'm trying to do. A wealth creator needs to know both sides of the story. You can't just know one story, one side, like I did as a financial planner, and thought this is the way to become rich, only to see that it's fucking not the way to become rich. And then in the political situation that we were in South Africa at that stage, we were so indoctrinated that we were prepared to give our fucking lives for this country, only to find out that it's bullshit. Just like people in the religious are prepared to blow themselves up for what they believe, and they do that. But it's not necessarily the truth. So today is not about BTC versus BCH versus BSV. Today is about your future, where there may be a risk, even if it's a 1% risk. What are you going to do about that? I'm not saying that you should do anything about it. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that in the event that it's a risk, you want to know the risk, and you want to have both sides, so that at the end of the day, if BTC is not, then everything in the Dreyer crypto strategy is going to run. I can see that there's a momentum, and I see that one of these days, and I hope that it's happened soon, that just like 2018, I'm getting out of the market completely, not partly, out of the market, because I know after that, I'm not going to time the top. I know that. But at the moment, we are on a serious profit. So if there's another mania run, and there's maybe another 50% or 100% or 300%, we're going to take it. And then we sit down. We pay the tax on all of that money. On all of that money. Because it's free money. It's 100% free. There's no reason why. I'm not greedy. I don't want you to be greedy. All I say is, then we wait. See what's going to happen. I trust my psychological indicator. I wait for that market to happen. If it's BSV, it's going to run, if it's true. If it's not true, well, it's not going to make any change in my property portfolio or in my Dreyer crypto strategy. It can make a small difference at the moment with the 100 Rand challenge that I've got. And that's it, right? So if you start giving advice, give advice in terms of uplifting advice or uplifting information that people can have a look at, and can go and check it out for themselves in order to make an informed decision. Okay, I'm going to quickly, there's a ton I did not keep track. I've no cryptocurrencies, but I want to get started. What advice? I'm not going to give you any advice, Fani. Advice is the last thing that I'd like to do. I do have courses. I do have like R100 challenge that I've got to understand a little bit more. I do have a crypto, let's call it a system. If you're interested, maybe what you can do is contact the office and ask them about it. That's one way if you're serious. Right, so tonight is not about, you know, anything relating. I see JJ says, Hannes, can you make on Carl's comments? I don't know where's Carl's comments whatsoever. I'll see if I can find them. Certainly, if the USDT is being printed the same as USD, eventually artificially pumped will fall in a currency collapse. Best YouTube on BSV. Go and have a look at that. Even if you've got just BTC, go and have a look what other people don't assume that. Remember, people may have. I'm not sure about this. People may have a hidden agenda, or they may want to push their egos. I'm not for that. I'm not against that, but I'm not for that. That's what I'm trying. But that's great advice, BSV, Maximus, whoever you may be. It's good. Give BTC as well references to, not only one, right? So thank you for sharing so that we can take a responsibility. That's what I'm doing. Don't believe me? Do your research. Do it. I love that. Do your own research. That's what I'm trying to share with you. Will crypto fall away once the fiat system fall away? No, I don't think so. That blockchain technology is just too powerful, and governments are going eventually to use it. Not initially, because there's a massive threat for them, according to me, the way that I see it. For someone just starting, can I invest 50% in BTC and 50% BSV, getting started with coins? Now, Ruachel, is not the time to invest. Those indicators to me shows that the market are starting to overeat. And normally, by the time that you get in, you're going to find that there's a chance. Maybe you can take this wave, but we in a greed phase already. So we're not in a phase where people sit back and they don't want to invest and everything is cool and you can make, because at this stage, if you're going to start looking at the market, you're going to get paralyzed, because the prices are just going to pump. Especially, I think we may be in the beginning of a mania phase, and then a rational person become totally irrational because there's money involved. So at this point in time, if I can suggest something, Ruachel, I think you are, or you may be on, if it's the same person that I'm thinking of, go and have a look at the directive strategy and make up your mind. Thanks, Marianne. Follow the money who forked the BTC, MasterCard funded Blockstream. That's good advice. Go. It's something to follow up. Hello, Amanus. Where can you buy a BSV? Arno, the quickest way to do is to go to CoinMarketCap, go on. By the way, it's going to be very difficult for especially Americans to buy it, because Coinbase, you can't buy it there, you can't buy it on Kraken, because they are part of this court case, by the way. You can't buy it on Binance and stuff like that. So they want to kill this, because if that is the truth, these people have got serious problems. Right. So, Arno, you go to CoinMarketCap, click on BSV, and look at the markets, and it's going to give you a list of exchanges where you can do it. It's actually very simple. Okay. So Ishmael, exactly the same. Carl above says BSV has only 10 nodes. Yeah, it has. He's not wrong. They've actually got fewer nodes that is running the whole thing, but so does BTC. Okay, so if you look at the nodes and the volume of that goes through it, it's true. This whole thing that you've got 10,000 nodes, it's bullshit. It's bullshit, right? So you can say I'm running a node. You can say that, but you're not going to mine anything. And if you go to the white paper, it says if you don't add value, in other words, if you don't register, if you mine open blocks, you should not be rewarded, right? So yeah, I believe it's true. But again, do not necessarily... Where does anyone talk about XRP? I do not have XRP, right? So I do not have it, so I can't tell you anything about it. Ask yourself the question, why isn't the trial mentioned? That is a good question. I've checked today, someone from the UK said that the case is in the UK and there's no media coverage, no media coverage. Now, I've showed to my students where BlackRock, Vanguard, and these bigger companies, how they've infiltrated and how they own the miners and the different, for example, Coinbase. Go and have a look. Who are the major shareholders in Coinbase and in Kraken? You're going to find it's the normal mainstream media, right? I'm not saying he is Satoshi Maximus, right? Maybe he is, maybe he's not. Right, I see a lot of hearts. Right, thank you. Be the outcome of the court case. I think it becomes irrelevant what the outcome of the court case is going to be. Let me tell you why. Because if Craig Wright loses, he's going to appeal. If COPA loses, they're going to appeal. So you can be as sure as I'm standing here, because it's in front of a judge at the moment. There's no ways. These guys have got enough money, and luckily or unluckily for COPA, Craig Wright has got more money than what they maybe thought. And a weird thing that happened, and I'm not sure because I did not check that out, but I saw today that of the original, because of a previous court case, there were coins that were mentioned that he's got that has moved. Again, no one talks about it, but I can't say I haven't done my homework to be able to verify that. But there's a lot of these small things that if you start looking at it, and that's how I got into it, where I said, wait a bit, I need to figure it out. When do you think BlackRock? Brian, it's impossible. No one can say anything. No one, and Brian, you know me by now, because I know you. If it's the same Brian that I'm thinking of. No one, we all want to know the future. It's impossible to know the future, right? We don't know. We've got no idea. We don't know if this that I've just said, I said this is from my point, a speculation that BlackRock may do that. Because if you look at I think you call it the perspectives. If you look at that, you're going to find they say that they can do that. Why the hell will they say that they can do that if they do not know something that we may not know, right? Thank you, Marcellus. I like, do your research. If the USD is being printed the same as USD, artificially pumped, I think that is what's happening. Okay, so at the moment, I'm not going to scroll back up to I don't know where Carl has made the comments, but if you want to make the comments, I'll watch it and I'll give you another 5 or 10 minutes. If you think that I can help value. I'm a defender of the real, genuine Bitcoin. Thank you. I'm also a defender, but as I say, I'm not sure that the world is going to accept that there's too much. We vote with our money. It's something I think is important. We vote with our money. And if I look at this in terms of the votes that we are getting, let me get back to that slide if I can, just a moment. So, no, that's not where I want to be. I want to be here. Let me see if I can quickly backtrack a little bit. If we look at this, it means that 0.08% believe that BSV has got any value. Who's getting it? And compared to the BTC crowd, 0.15% compared to the BTC crowd believes that it's got value. So we simply look at what everyone else is doing. They are voting. You will not buy BSV unless you think it's got a chance to succeed, right? It doesn't make sense. So from that point of view, it's the world is against this. There has to be a reason. The moment that everyone is picking on a person for 15 years and that person is still defending, there has to be a reason why that happens. I don't know the reason, but my logic from a psychological point of view, this guy has got a name to protect and he's not going to go away, my friend. If he's the true and it's his white paper, he's going to fight till he proves that right. It may take 10, 20 years unless they take him out. And for BSV, I think that may even be a good thing, as harsh as it may sound, because people don't like him because of his Asperger's and because he's a straight person and he doesn't take a lot of shit from a lot of people. Andries, maybe start with one of my other free master classes. I think in 2 weeks' time I'm going to have one to get an idea. The trick, I think, Andries, is to become a wealth creator. It's not to start with Bitcoin or with cryptocurrency unless you understand how we operate as human beings and what drives us and what motivates us and why is it that everyone is doing what everyone else is doing it and why is it that the world is in chaos. I saw Peterson at a thing with someone today, another influencer, and he asked him, what's his average income in the world in dollar term? And this guy said it's $56,000. That's for Americans. And he says, no, in the world. And in the world, people, do you know that the top 1% in the world earns $32,000? $32,000. It's about 600,000 Rand, more or less, here in South Africa. Right. Now, this whole idea that the top 1%, if you're not in the top 1% of the top 1%, I think people are battling. They don't get it. We live in an illusion. The rich are going to get richer and the poor are going to get poorer because the poor are being sucked dry by governments and financial institutions. They do not want the poor to become rich. They simply do not want to do that because then they've got no control over those people. According to me, I may be wrong. Release white paper in Australia. I've done something weird, but this is again because of BSV Maximus. My grandson's name is Magnus. Right. I got all the emails that came out in this court case, and I did something weird. In terms of the English that we are speaking the Queen's English here in South Africa, or we suppose, I don't know what the hell I'm speaking, but Queen's English. But there are certain words like in South Africa, lekker. You're going to find it 100% in South Africa, and then maybe someone in New Zealand or that came from South Africa is going to use it. But there are certain words that you use mainly in Australia. And if you read the emails, I haven't got it open in front of me, but I've highlighted those words. And that guy, according to what I've seen there, has to come from Australia, right? He must be from Australia. Again, I'm not saying he is, but it was just fun to have a look at that. BSV, right? 1.5 million transactions per second. I've seen it's more than that at the moment. The last time the highest was 1.75, but it's I know, great to see you on as well. A 95% mindset. That's what we need to do. Unless we're going to change that, nothing is going to happen. Right, Andries, I hope that I've answered you. Okay, it seems to me that is more or less. I want to thank you guys for being willing to share. I see there's 238 people watching at the moment. That's flippin' unreal. If you think there's value, do me a favor and and click this. This is mainly for the South African market. If there's, I don't know where BSV Maximus is from, if it made sense what we've discussed here today, maybe give me a like. I hope that you have, and maybe share this. So I would really appreciate the share, on condition that you think there's value. If you don't think there's value, please don't do it. I see there's a lot of things that I've missed. Trevor, right, Lauren, thank you for your perspective. Thank you. Ek vra as 'n beginner, watter kursus moet ek begin? Andries, first of all, follow. Come and attend in 2 weeks' time. I've got a webinar, and there I'm going to explain it. All right. The rest of the people here is not interested in that. It's going to take an hour, 2 hours. That's where I would start, so that you can get the lay of the land, and then see if, because I'm going to ask from you to take responsibility for your life and to actually implement it to learn the skills. So before you do something, put 2 hours aside. If you're not prepared to do the 2 hours, I can't help you. So that's where I would start. Thank you, Vandile. Ishmael, Bitcoin and Ethereum cost 0. Ishmael, you know what to do. Should I split into others? I've got no idea, Ishmael. Thank you, Ian. Rochelle, yes, extremely helpful, tremendous, valuable. Thank you. Please contact the office tomorrow. This is what one of my says to Andries. Okay. Right, let's call it a day. Let's call it a night. I've enjoyed it. I'm sweating as I'm standing here. And then thank you guys for watching, and thank you for being here. What does your fear and greed indicator say about the currency info market? Rion, it tells me that the market is busy overheating. The market, there's a lot of money suddenly flowing into the market. There may be 200 maybe reasons why. Maximus, I'm going to, do you have a YouTube? I see you are very, very active. Dutch, French, German, and English. Maybe that will give you a clue where I'm from. Okay, you're from the world. If you've got a YouTube, just mention it. Then I'm definitely going to hop up to see what you're on. So BSV is Solana killer. No, it's not a killer. There's no such thing. I don't want to say it's a killer. Maybe BSV is nothing. Maybe Solana is great. I don't know. All this bloody terminology, Brian, this thing is going to kill Ethereum, this thing is going to kill that. But they're all still here, and all of them are still making money. There were heaps of value for future courses. Can we in New Zealand maybe get your recordings? Very difficult. Yeah, of course, JJ. Just ask the office. The best way is to subscribe and then just let the office know, because I'm changing the whole time. It's not then that one they can send you. Or you can contact Lilo or Netta at the office maybe tomorrow during office hours. It's now, what's it, 29 here. So, or send them an email and ask if you could perhaps get the latest property or the 500K challenge. Maybe the 500K challenge, because that's more, unless you are interested in property. Of course, in New Zealand, my program works. Right. So, and thank you, JJ, for attending. I don't know what time it is there, but I'm supposed, although it should be early. Yeah, I'm not sure. Love this man. Thank you, D. I love that. USA, fabulous. Linky, dankie, Wamanus. Adrian, as always, thank you, thanks. Trevor, thank you. Past my bedtime. Okay, Trevor. Nicholas, dankie. At BSV Bitcoin, the best channel to do your research on. I'm going to have a look and maybe we can communicate at a later stage or do something together. Right, with that, thanks so much for your for paying attention and for being here. I see there's still 217. This is crazy. I really love this. I don't want this to end, but we have to go. Solana is a scam. Sorry. Okay. You can say what you want to say, but don't take it that it is a scam. Do your homework. Thank you, Solly. And with that, we're going to call it a night, and then hopefully I'll see you one day, or maybe go and have a look at my YouTube channel. There's a ton of stuff. I'm sure that you'll be able to get value from that, right? Is there a recording of this webinar? I was driving. It's not Desmond. It's not a webinar, so it will be direct on YouTube. Just check for it. The same link that you've got. You'll be able to see this whole thing. We want more. Okay, Rion. Do you work exactly? Thank you, Maximus. Okay, I'm going to call it a night, and then I'll see you guys whenever I see you. All of the best. See you at the top.